Welcome to Wise Age Meaning, a space where we honor maturity, embrace change, and speak gently about the things that truly matter. Today, we're going to talk about something rarely spoken out loud, but deeply felt in the hearts of many people as they grow older. Desire, intimacy, and the quiet question, does this part of me still matter? If you've ever wondered, if I'm at this age, is it still normal to want closeness? To feel desire? You are not alone. And more than that, you are human, whole, deserving, and still deeply capable of love. So wherever you are on your journey, single or in a long-term relationship, feeling connected or quietly distant, I invite you to join me. Let's walk this conversation with honesty, warmth, and respect together. Part 1. Accepting change. As a professional in adult psychology and sexual health, I often meet people who share a common experience. They reach their 50s and begin to feel anxious, confused, and sometimes even ashamed when they realize that their sexual desire isn't what it used to be. The first thing I want to say, with complete respect, is this. The changes our bodies go through as we age are entirely natural. There is nothing wrong or abnormal about not feeling the same fire you had at 30, or noticing that your body responds more slowly or feels less aroused than before. What truly matters here is not the change itself, but how you perceive and accept it. Many people, especially men, carry a silent pressure, the need to stay in shape, to be strong, to be like they used to be. And when their bodies no longer meet that expectation, they feel a sense of loss, of inadequacy, and gradually, they start to distance themselves from their partners. They stop talking. They stop sharing. I often tell them this: you haven't failed. You're evolving. Your body is telling you it's time to love in a different way, slower, deeper, and more meaningful. Accepting change doesn't mean giving up on your sex life. On the contrary, it's the first step toward reconnecting, not just with your partner, but with yourself. When you understand that aging doesn't take desire away, it simply changes how it expresses itself. You begin to open up, to soften, and to enjoy intimacy in a new way. It's no longer about proving your capability, but about being fully present with love and respect. And from that acceptance, a new door opens. A door where sex is no longer an obligation, nor a comparison to the past, but a gentle harmony between two souls who have weathered many storms together and who still choose to share honest, tender, and intimate moments with each other. Part 2. Sexuality in Old Age, the deep union of body and soul. There's a common belief I often encounter in consultations, that sex is simply the act of two bodies coming together. And yes, on a biological level, that's not wrong. But as we grow older, especially stepping into our later years, I invite you to reconsider this idea. Because sexuality in old age is no longer just about the physical. It becomes a deep interplay between body, mind, and soul. At this stage in life, we no longer make love to prove strength. We seek intimacy to feel connected. A gentle touch at the right moment, a glance that says, "I understand you," a hug that lingers just a bit longer than usual. These simple acts often stir more emotion than any grand gesture ever could. I once worked with a couple in their 60s. They told me they don't have sex as often as they used to, but they feel closer than ever before. Why? Because now, when they lie next to each other, they truly listen. They touch with intention. They hold each other with quiet care. For them, sex is no longer about climax. It's about presence. It's not about reaching a goal. It's about being together, fully, in that moment. This is something I always remind my clients. There's no rule for sexuality in older age. No number of times per month to aim for. No specific position, rhythm, or form that defines what's right. At this stage, sex becomes a personal, tender experience. It reflects the depth of connection, trust, and care between two people who shared years, sometimes decades, of life together. And for those who are single or no longer have a partner, please don't believe that this part of life is over. Sexuality does not only exist through another person. It also lives in how you care for yourself, how you connect with your own body, and how you honor your own needs. Many studies have shown that staying physically and emotionally close to yourself, understanding what you need, what you long for, is an essential part of keeping the spirit youthful and the heart alive with emotion. Sexuality in later life, at its core, is a profound expression of presence and love. When you no longer worry about appearances, about perfection, you begin to touch the true essence of intimacy. It is safety, it is freedom. It is the ability to simply be yourself, without fear, without pressure, without needing to prove anything. And when two people reach that level of connection, sometimes just a single hug is enough to heal. Part 3. Facing fear and insecurity. In many private conversations I've had, there's a silent pain that older adults rarely express in words, but I can see it clearly in their eyes and in the pause at the end of their sentences. It is the fear of no longer being lovable, of no longer being worthy of closeness. When the body begins to change, when the skin wrinkles, the hair turns gray, and energy starts to fade, many people slowly form a quiet belief that I'm no longer attractive, that I'm no longer a real lover, that maybe it's time to give up intimacy for the sake of dignity. But I want to offer you this, from the perspective of someone who listens for a living. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You just need to be real. Sex at this stage of life doesn't require the ideal body or expert technique or fiery passion. What it needs is presence, is the courage to look into your partner's eyes and say, I still long to be close to you, even if I'm no longer young. I still want to be held, even if I no longer look the same. The deepest fears don't come from the body. They come from not expressing our needs, from avoiding vulnerability, and choosing silence and distance instead. But here's the truth. Your partner likely shares the very same fears. And the most beautiful moments happen when two people sit down, open up, listen to each other, and say, we still need one another. We still desire each other, in a softer, more tender, yet deeply meaningful way. I've seen couples who thought their emotional connection had faded, rekindle it completely, not through techniques, but through honest conversation. They realized that what was missing wasn't skill, but acceptance, and a gentle nod that says, we're still here, together. Insecurity is part of being human. We all feel it. But if you allow it to run your intimate life, you might lose something truly beautiful, the part of you that simply wants to be held, to be seen, to be loved exactly as you are. So be brave. Speak your truth. Begin again, even with a quiet question like, would you like me to hold you tonight? And you might be surprised by the answer. Part 4. Nurturing desire through appreciation. Over more than 10 years of working with older couples, I've noticed something truly special. At this age, desire doesn't appear on its own, it must be nurtured. And the strongest nourishment isn't pills. It's not technique. It's appreciation. When we were young, love came easily. Desire came fast, fueled by hormones, novelty, and the thrill of pursuit. But as we age, the body slows down, the mind becomes more cautious. Desire is no longer a biological reflex. It becomes the result of emotions that are cultivated, gently, each day. I once asked a man in his late 60s, do you still feel desire for your wife? He smiled and said softly, not always, but every time I see her making tea for me in the morning, I just want to hold her tight. Sometimes that's all it takes to feel close again. At this stage of life, desire begins with gratitude, with the way we look at each other. Not to find perfection, but to recognize we still have each other. A small touch before bed, a thoughtful question after dinner, a gentle squeeze while walking together. These tiny moments, seemingly unrelated to sex, are the invisible bridges that invite desire to return, naturally and gently. Sex in later life doesn't need to be intense, but it does need to be planted and watered daily, with care, attention, kind eyes, and a conscious choice to keep choosing one another. Even after a lifetime together. And when you do that consistently, you'll witness something beautiful. Desire is still there. Emotion is still there. They've simply grown into a new form, one that requires you to love more slowly, more deeply, and more presently than ever before. And if you've listened this far, I want to thank you, because it takes courage to look within, to admit that you still feel, and to believe, after everything, that you are still worthy of love. If this message touched something in you, feel free to leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Wise Age Meaning for more quiet truths that honor this season of life. Because love, when held with presence and sincerity, never grows old.